you and I are about to do is one of the hardest things to do in instrument flying, and that is to make an IFR departure from an uncontrolled airport. Let's say that I'm on the ground here at Ramona Airport and expect to be in the clouds right after takeoff because the ceiling's pretty low. I've already filed my IFR flight plan from Ramona to Palm Springs, California, and the route I filed was direct Julian, Victor 208 to Thermal, direct. Well, since there's no control tower on the field, and I can't reach flight service on the radio, I'll use my trusty portable phone to call flight service on the telephone to get my clearance. But before I make that phone call, I'm going to take one last look at the procedures that I'm going to use for the departure. And as part of that, I'll check my VFR chart. What I'm looking for is mountains and tall towers close to the airport. Well, the biggest thing that I see is that there are a lot of mountains going up to about 6,000 feet just to the east of the airport between here and Julian. Plus there's some hills to the south and to the southwest. Now, I'm responsible for my own terrain clearance until I'm either receiving radar vectors or I'm on a published route. Since that's the case, I'd better think through my departure procedures. If I get cleared as filed, that means I can get to Julian any way I want to, as long as I'm willing to provide my own terrain clearance. But why make it tough on myself? In cases where the rise in terrain exceeds the minimum climb gradient, as it does here, the FAA will figure out a safe climb procedure for you. If I'm using Jeppesen charts, I find it right here below the airport diagram on the back of the #1 approach chart for the airport. If I'm using government approach charts, I know the procedures available when there's a T and an upside-down black triangle in the lower left corner of the approach plate. Then I go to a separate section in the front of the approach plate book labeled IFR takeoff minimums and departure procedures to look up the procedure. So let's take a look at that procedure in the government approach plate book. IFR departure procedure, runway 9, turn left, runway 27, turn right. Climb to 5,000 feet via the Oceanside VOR, radial 100 to intercept the Mission Bay VOR, radial 007 to Bondo intersection. Continue climb via Victor 208, Victor 458 to at or above the minimum en route altitude. Those turns are to keep me away from the hills to the south of the airport, and that routing gives me time to climb before I get to the mountains out to the east of the airport. So, what does all of this mean to me? Let's take a look at it. I'll be taking off on runway 27, so I'll turn right to intercept the Oceanside 100 radial. I'll keep climbing and continue westbound on that Oceanside 100 radial until I reach the Mission Bay 007 radial. Then I'll turn right and follow that radial until I get to Bondo. If I don't get to 5,000 feet before I get to Bondo, I'll have to enter a holding pattern at Bondo while I finish my climb. Then I can go east on Victor 208 and keep climbing as I go to Julian. Okay, I've got that all figured out now. When I'm in the run-up area and ready for takeoff, I'll call San Diego radio on the phone to get my clearance. Well, I've done my flow check and set up the radios. Let me show you what I've done. First of all, I've tuned my #1 nav to Oceanside on 115.3 and set the OBS to 280 degrees. That's to track the 100 radial inbound. Now, the departure procedure sets me up real nice for the localizer into McClellan-Palomar Airport at Carlsbad. And that would be the quickest way to get back on the ground if I had any kind of problem. So just in case I do have a problem while I'm in IFR conditions and need to land soon, I've set the frequency for the Palomar ILS into the #1 nav radio in the standby frequency. In the #2 nav radio, I've set the Mission Bay frequency of 117.8 and put 007 degrees in that OBS. Well, I'm all set, so now it's time to call San Diego Radio on the telephone. This is Cessna 359er Echo Sierra in the run-up area at Ramona, ready for takeoff and ready to copy my IFR clearance to Palm Springs.
ATC clear Cessna November 359er Echo Sierra to Palm Springs as filed. Climb and maintain 9,000. After departure, contact SoCal Departure Control on 132.2, squawk 5467. Clearance valid at 1706, void if not off by 1715. Time now, 1705.
Okay, ATC clear Cessna 359er Echo Sierra to Palm Springs as filed. Climb and maintain 9,000. After departure, contact SoCal Departure Control on 132.2, squawk 5467. Clearance valid at 1706, void if not off by 1715. Time now, 1705.
Read back correct. Have a good flight.
Okay, thanks a lot for the help. Okay, I'm cleared as filed, and I filed direct to Julian. Now, does that mean that I should forget the departure procedure that I just studied and fly directly to Julian? Well, I can if I want. It's my prerogative. But it would not be wise. In fact, if I try that, it might be a very short trip. Now, the controller will actually be expecting me to fly the departure procedure. But just to make sure, I'll tell him that that's what I'm doing just as soon as I make radio contact. SoCal departure, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra, leaving 2,000 feet, climbing to 9,000, following the Ramona IFR departure procedure.
Cessna 9er Echo Sierra, radar contact 2 miles west of Ramona.
Cessna 359er Echo Sierra, roger, we confirm the position. Okay, we're now on the Oceanside 100 radial, so I'll just track it westbound for a little. There's the Mission Bay 007 radial coming in, so I'll start my turn now and retune my #1 radio to Mission Bay and use it to track the 007 radial. Then I'll tune my #2 nav to Oceanside and set the Oceanside 083 radial on the #2 OBS so I'll know when I get to the airway. I see I'm going to make my 5,000 feet by the time I get to Bondo intersection. There's the 083 radial of Oceanside coming in, so I'll just turn eastbound and follow it. And I'll retune my #1 nav to Oceanside and set the airway radial 083 in the #1 OBS because it's easier to navigate using the #1 nav. Now that I'm beyond the halfway point, I'll tune in the Julian VOR. And I'll just track the Julian 263 radial inbound, and I'm on my way. So you see, even in the most difficult terrain, the FAA will provide a safe departure procedure for any airport that has an instrument approach. It's just up to you to look it up and follow it. Do that, and you've loaded the odds in your favor for a safe and comfortable trip for you and your passengers.